apparently being called out by the Mueller team wasn't enough. Appearing on the ironically named Reliable Sources show Sunday, one of the authors of the BuzzFeed piece tripled down. Here now exclusively in his very first appearance on the Ingram Angle is Donald Trump Jr. Don, thanks so much for being here tonight.
Good to be with you.
When this story first came out, reporters were quick to pounce, quick to turn the spotlight on you.
Well, they always are, Laura, and this isn't the first time that happened. You saw it right after I did my testimony, and they said, oh, Donald Trump Jr. had the WikiLeaks information because presumably Adam Schiff leaked it right after my testimony to them and conveniently took out the 1 before the 4, turning the 14th into the 4th, meaning I had it 6 days instead, before the world saw it, as opposed to 4 days after the entire world saw it. This has gone on time and time again. It also happened when Lanny Davis said something along the effect of, I told my father about the Russia meeting and he was there. He was CNN's source. He then walked it back and realized it was totally wrong. Their own source did it, and yet today they still haven't pulled that back. And the reason is they need it to be true, Laura. They've been pushing this nonsense for 2 years. They've found nothing, but anytime there's a negative, anytime there's a chance to get Trump, they're going to jump on it. They're basically leftists policing leftists at this point. I love watching some of the CNN commentary. Well, this is going to give us all a bet. Of course it is, because you jump on it each and every time. They cover themselves with the, well, if true, if you're not sure it's true, don't push it for 14 hours
But you
straight.
have to see at 2 p.m. on Friday, Don, this is what they were going with at CNN. Don, they were going right to impeachment, then to resignation, and then...
I mean, they got him this time, Laura, like the other 75 times, because they haven't exactly panned out. By the way, no different than the story you covered at the beginning, right? You had some Catholic schoolboys that were at a Right to Life march, okay? They were wearing a MAGA hat. They had to pounce because the media wants that to be true. They want a bunch of nice Catholic kids, happen to be white. They want them to be the enemy. This is what they've created. The media has done this to themselves. They have shot themselves in the foot time and time again because they so desperately want this to be the truth, as opposed to saying, you know what? Trump's done a darn good job as president. If you look at any economic metric today, Laura, we are substantially better off than we were 2 short years ago before he took office, because he's doing a great job. Imagine what he could do without the noise, without the, every day there's a new reason for impeachment. Let him do his job. That's the job he was elected to do. And the media right now is really trying to subvert this democracy. They've done more to hurt the credibility of this country's institution as a democracy than anything in history.
Not only the president, but anyone who supports the president. Doesn't matter if you're 14 or you're my age or if you've so
God forbid you wear a MAGA hat, Laura, because that must make you all sorts of things. I mean,
Donnie, the issue with this Trump Tower thing keeps coming back, keeps coming back, and we know the BuzzFeed feed deal, and they claim they have it's all sourced and everything.
Of course it is.
When you've had time to think about this, you testified. When was the last discussion about this Trump Tower deal? Because Rudy got everybody really confused, I have to say. And I love Rudy. He hasn't been on the show in a while. We love him. But he goes on Meet the Press, and he says, well, it could have been like right through the election. Then he said he was talking in hypothetical terms today.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't talk about things that I don't know about. But, unfortunately, that sometimes happens, no different than anyone else. But the reality is this wasn't a deal. We don't know the developer. We don't know the site. We don't know anything about it. Ultimately, it was Michael Cohen essentially trying to get a deal done. He was there for a long time. He wasn't exactly a deal guy. Didn't bring too many to the table, so I don't think anyone took it all that seriously. That's the reality of what went on. But, it's that constant link. Now we got him. You saw the story last week. Donald Trump is a Russian agent. Yeah, the guy that's a billionaire, leading in a pretty incredible lifestyle, he left all of that to go into this snake pit, to go into the swamp, to run against 16, 17 Republican contenders. He's got zero chance of doing that. To then defeat Hillary Clinton, he had zero chance of doing that. He did all this because he's a Russian agent. I mean, the reason the media has no credibility is because this is what they do. This is what they do to themselves each and every time.
Adam Schiff, who has the ability now to call witnesses.
Of course he does. Sure.
Is said he he isn't going to stop. BuzzFeed report, no BuzzFeed report. Even though it's been debunked, Don, he's going to proceed. I imagine he's going to call you back.
Yeah, he's got the reality. He's got nothing else. There's a 99.9% chance he's the guy that was leaking my testimony as I was testifying. I came out of testimony at about 8 o'clock at night looking, and CNN is running quotes from noon on about my testimony. You know, in the House Intelligence Committee. I mean, that has to say something about what's going on in there. Since he's never met a camera he didn't love, I would bet a lot of money that it was him. And the reality is, I've done 25 hours of testimony on a 20-minute meeting. This has been the greatest witch hunt in American history, perhaps world history. In 3 hours, they found the bomber that was the fake bomber. And in 2 years, they haven't found anything other than they got a big bombshell. Oh, they got Trump this time. I've heard it too many times, Laura. The American people don't take this stuff seriously anymore. They look at these people like jokers at this point.
Kamala Harris was out there today. You know, she announced that she's going to run for president. Now, Don, when you hear a sitting senator say an assault on American values and American ideals, your dad's called a racist. I've known him for 20 years. I'm sorry. I've never
Laura,
heard him say
the insanity is there. You saw this with the social media platforms attacking the word family because, God forbid, you have family, right? You know, this is this leftist assault. When you talk about this economy not working for the American working class, I mean, Donald Trump's the first president to speak to the American worker in generations at this point. He's the guy delivering it. As I said earlier, there's not a single economic metric where we are not better off as a country today than we were 2 years ago under Barack Obama. But with the media carrying the Democrats' baggage, they'll say whatever they want. They should be paid as lobbyists of the DNC at this point.
Are you now still thinking politics in the future? I mean, it's been thought that you were going to go into politics at some point.
Listen, I haven't thought about it that way. For me, it's about, you know, right now, whatever I can do to help my father win, I'm going to do because I love what's going on. As an American, as a patriot, as a father of 5 young children, I see what he's doing, what he's fighting, and the nonsense barrage that he's taking from the insanity that has become the left. Let's not kid ourselves. This is not your grandfather's Democratic Party. They've really lost their way. They have no interest in protecting Americans, only pushing and furthering their insane agenda. And I'm going to do what I can to help him. Whatever happens in the future, I'll deal with that then. But in the meantime, he's making it pretty easy, given what he's doing, because he's doing a phenomenal job for this country.
2020 is coming already. They're all lining up. Don, thanks so much. Don't be a stranger. Thanks for coming on.
I'll be back.
Joe Concha covers media for The Hill, and he joins us tonight. So, Joe, do you think that the real problem with BuzzFeed is that it has given rise to segments like this where mean right-wingers on Fox News criticize NBC? Is that really the core problem of the story, would you say?
Well, Tucker, let me address Chuck Todd there, because people don't realize this, but he's not only the moderator of Meet the Press, but he is also the political director of NBC News. So here's the thing. Everybody, all those anchors and pundits you just showed had ample warning that there was a serious problem with this story, because on Friday morning, before all the impeachment if truths came out, as you mentioned, you had Anthony Cormier, who was one of the authors in this piece on CNN, saying he hadn't seen the evidence that was used as a foundation for the story. And then minutes later on MSNBC, Jason Leopold, the other author on here, said he had seen the evidence. That is your red flag right there, where Chuck Todd, as a political director, then needs to get the troops together and say, guys, look, our own news organization, NBC News, could not verify this report independently, and therefore we should go about this with extreme caution. Instead, you mentioned the number nearly 200 times. On MSNBC alone, the word impeach or impeachment was said 97 times. That falls at Chuck Todd's feet as a political director when in the morning meeting, morning editorial meeting, he should have made sure that didn't happen. And on CNN, same thing. They couldn't verify the report independently, and it was said on there 82 times. And now look, where are we at now? Jason Leopold, the other reporter in the story who said he saw the evidence, is like Edward Snowden. You can't find him. He hasn't tweeted for 3 days. He hasn't written any tweets anyway, and he isn't doing any interviews. You see Ben Smith on CNN yesterday, but you don't see him.
So Cormier has always struck me as a real reporter, you know, actually, to be honest about it. But this Leopold kid has like a long history of really reckless behavior. I mean, he's the one who publicly reported, and it turned out to be false, that Karl Rove had been indicted. I think he was fired for plagiarism another time. The guy's a political activist. Why would you ever put someone like that on a story of this magnitude?
Precisely. And it's funny because with Leopold and so many in the media, the mistakes only seem to go one way towards Republicans or conservatives or Trump in this case. I mean, ask yourself this question. When was the last time you saw a major media outlet make a mistake or a major error in a story about a Democratic lawmaker? I'm racking my brain.
That's such a good point.
I think a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I've only been watching for 30 years. I've never seen that happen, ever, not one time. By the way, will you keep a list? I mean, I want to be honest about it. You know, if you see Nancy Pelosi unfairly impugned by Chuck Todd, will you let me know and we'll do a segment on it? Just to correct the record.
I'll be all over. And by the way, Glenn Greenwald has a great piece today in The Intercept. He lists 10 major stories that the media has gotten wrong on Russia. So this isn't a one-off like it's being portrayed by some that are saying, oh, this is just an excuse to attack the media. We've seen this over and over and over again. And as I mentioned, going in the same direction.
I don't think there's anyone braver than Glenn Greenwald. Joe, thank you very much.
He's great.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you. And God bless America.